Here he is. Hi.
Mad, how are you?
Good, man. I'm good.
Good.
So we're 6 weeks out. So at this moment in time, I'm really starting to build running volume up. I'm actually doing a lot of double sessions now. So the typical breakdown is 4 strength related sessions inside the gym, 2 uppers, 2 lowers. This will then be combined with multi-distance training sessions from a running standpoint. So we'll have some easy 30-minute runs, 60s, 75s, even 90s across the week. And then I'll also still bring in my cycling just to give it that like cross-training element. So it generally runs with a strength training and then endurance training. And then at the start of the week, I tend to group together my endurance with both running and cycling on the same day. So some days can be 2.5 hours of training. Some days can be 60 minutes to 75 minutes.
Nice. And how does that compare to obviously the first 6 weeks of prep? And then now you're kind of going into, I guess, what will be like the key period in terms of volumes, distances, repetition. You know, how does that differ now from before?
Yeah, so now we're getting very specific in terms of, you know, the time on feet that I'm trying to achieve in each training session. There's also an element of like simulation training in there that's going to be happening over these next couple of weeks. I've already done one of those as well, just to kind of test where my foundations were. So that's like practicing the loops, practicing the fueling strategies, and just making sure that I'm getting familiar with those event day settings.
What was the specific session you did, or what are the specific sessions you do to really like simulate that race day feeling or get as close to the real thing as possible?
So generally at a weekend, I'll be replacing what was a long run into simulation specific days. So that will be taking the same distance, 6.7 kilometers, and taking the same strategy, such as every hour on the hour, starting that loop, and slowly as the weeks go on, increasing how many of those loops I actually put into practice. So I'm just, again, training my body, training my fueling systems, training everything just to really replicate what that event looks like. So it's all about time on feet and of course just trying to familiarise myself with that setup and rinse and repeat across the weeks.
Obviously this will be your first backyard ultra. Has the training so far, like, has it been what you expected it to be, or have there been any areas that have like pulled up any surprises or that your body has dealt with differently? I guess like, how has that looked for this training block?
Yeah, so actually training myself to slow down, because one thing that I've really got to practice is, you know, making sure I'm pretty regimented with my timing of each lap. So it's a lot slower pace that I've been used to training at in previous preps, such as marathons. So actually relearning that process, running with a new cadence in order to peel back on, you know, speed and pace and time. So it's definitely like changed my whole like approach to my longer distance runs now. And that's been quite a big change. I find myself in training sessions having to physically slow myself down in order to just stick at the pace that I need to be sticking at. So that's been a big part of training, but also just really building that aerobic capacity through the cycling as well. I'm not particularly fond of cycling, I don't really enjoy it, but the monotony and the routine and the consistency of doing that has really kind of trained not only my aerobic fitness, but also my mental capacity as well.
And I guess just to like finalise on a little update, 6 weeks out, what do you think are, or do you have any advice for anyone in terms of like what are the key components, or what are the most important things that you're doing currently that are going to benefit you for the Backyard Ultra?
So 100% doing the simulations and actually strategizing on those as well, because it's really important to, you know, practice around with things, fueling, sleep management, stress management, all those kind of things. So actually having those simulations in training is massively important. Again, like I said, doing the cross training, because yes, you need time on feet, but you also need to make sure that you're not running yourself into the ground in training, so you can show up at that start line in good health. Outside of that, it's just a case of, okay, like nutritionally, like actively trying to eat more now. So I don't see my nutrition as I'm eating for a training session, I'm then eating for the next day, in terms of speeding up that recovery process. So nutrition's taken a big kind of uplift in my priorities. Also a big one as well, like I've actually started to get into bed at like 8:30 in the evening and really starting to prioritize like 9-10 hours of sleep, which has been a bit of a game changer for training performance. So I guess if you are thinking about taking something like this on, it's very important to understand like the magnitude of the process you're going to go through in training, and you're going to have to commit the time, you're going to have to say no to things, and just really fully focus on that event ahead. So this style of training, I think, is really overlooked. What this allows me to do is build that fundamental strength, especially through a lower body, to be able to get robust and make sure that, you know, I've got the endurance in the legs that I need, as well as blending that element of like conditioning that you see in the ski and the wall balls, and of course the bike itself, just helps me work on that aerobic base and fitness. And I'm hoping that, you know, this is going to be the thing that carries me through in this event. I've done a lot of work that, again, people don't see inside the gym, and I think it's just so important. And I don't think long distance running is just always about running. It's the prep work, getting the body ready to be able to take on those miles is equally important, as well as obviously building cardio and aerobic fitness.
I guess this is like the part that everyone does in isolation. You know, no one really sees like the training every day, the discipline, waking up, the commitment, and that's, you know, that's who I know Reece as. I've known him for a very long time now, and I knew when he approached me about the Red Hot Backyard Ultra, it just wasn't even a question. I think it's so nice to see him like progressing through this journey, but then also from Torra's perspective, like what can we do as a brand to make his life easier? Obviously through supplementation we can help him, through support at the event, in the lead up to the event, after the event, and kind of looking at this as like, yes, it's a partnership between a human and a brand, but the connection's much deeper than that. And it's really a partnership where two really, really good friends have committed over a period of time to do something incredible for one another. And I think that's kind of, I guess, the reason why we're committed to doing this.
So guys, strength and conditioning session has been done. This is the second part of my training day. We're starting out with a 10K run. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this run into 2K intervals with a 90-second rest period between each interval. And the reason for that is I'm just getting my body used to taking a little bit of a break after completing a run. And again, this will transfer nicely into the event itself. So the thing that I'm aiming for most here is to get at least 60 minutes on feet, breaking down into smaller portions and just get used to resting and kind of refueling. And the kind of pace that I'm looking for today is like a 5-minute kilometer, so a little bit quicker than the event itself, so I can also kind of just practice how things are going to look if I do need to try and speed up on the event itself. That one was hard. That's 10 done, 51 minutes on feet. We'll take that. That was an interesting training session, but so happy that we got it over the line. We can now head back and have a little bit of a rest. So actually going to take 2 days rest now, because on Easter Monday I am actually flying out to Austin, Texas. Not only are we going to do some warmer weather training, but also I'm going to be support crewing one of my clients at the BPN Backyard Ultra as well. So this is going to give me a really good opportunity to understand, you know, what this kind of event is going to be all about, take it all in, and just kind of hopefully learn some lessons with the event itself. So something that I'm looking really forward to. We'll of course continue doing the training in Austin. There is potential that I'll do the Austin 10K as well through the city, which would be pretty cool. But apart from that, it's just a case of, you know, kind of being locked in for another 2 weeks in America in a new environment. So that'll just kind of refresh and recharge me a little bit. And then realistically, after those 2 weeks are done, we're just going to be 4 weeks out from the event, which means things really do start to get serious at that point. That's where we're really dialing everything in, locking in and getting ready, because the show is only just getting started.